Good. GM.
Yeah.
So let us do a quick recap of what Dave have talked about earlier today. And mostly he has talked about scalar types. That's what they call it in Cairo. And then they have compound types in Cairo. The scalar types are majorly primitives that you are very aware of, which is uint 8 to uint 256, the Boolean value and the integer, and then fet. In Cairo, everything defaults to fet if the type is not specifically annotated or cannot be inferred. For example, when you are trying to infer a data type, look at this particular type now. If we do not annotate U32, this is going to actually infer from the value assigned to it that this is actually a type of this particular type. If type is not annotated, it is going to be what? Inferred from the value assigned to that particular variable declared. Cairo uses a immutable memory model, which means by default, you cannot just change a variable unless you specifically say you are going to change it. And saying that entails using the keyword mute. Look at this particular line, 7. If there is no mute here, we cannot later assign line 13 to variable A. Are you following? I just want to quickly recap. So this is the reason why we are getting an error in squiggly line on line 13, that A is not mutable. We cannot assign temp to variable A. So if you know that in the future you are going to change a particular value, you have to add mute keyword to that particular value variable declaration. Let's say mute A, and then our error will disappear. So if you understand these basic concepts, in Cairo, your variables are immutable by default. They cannot be changed unless you specifically say you want to be changing them. Shadowing allows reusing variable names, meaning that you can declare a variable, reuse it, but the previous one is no longer valid. For example, we have let mute A here, right? Now let's say let A. Look at this now. We are getting a squiggly line on line 13, but we can actually remove this by declaring another let here. Are you following? Okay. So look at it, we solved the problem by declaring let instead of using the mute keyword. What we have done here is that we declared a shadow of the first declaration of variable A. So the next one is just a shadow of that particular first one, but with new value assigned to it. Are you following? So the let keyword, these are just things that you are familiar with. The let keyword is the keyword used to declare a variable. The other one is const, meaning that if you use const to declare a variable, it is a must for you to annotate the variable type before you can assign a value to it. Are you following? So to make a variable mutable, you add the mute keyword. This is what is done here. We have done shadowing to the right. You understand shadowing? Sorry, my style is different from Dave. Dave is a teacher. He is. Yeah. I'm also a teacher by training. Yeah. So if you do not understand anything, please let me know so that we can go over it again. Shadowing just means that instead of using the mute keyword to make a variable redeclarable, you use the let again to redeclare it and then assign another value to it. It will not cause any bug. Then constant. Constant must have type annotation. It can be declared in any scope, including global scope. When they say global scope, what do they mean by global scope? It can be defined outside the function, where several other functions can share that particular variable. So if you have multiple functions in a particular code module, you can declare a global variable at the top of the module level, top level, and then every functions inside that particular module, we have access to that variable. cannot be the result of any value because it must be known before runtime. For example, we can do, let's say, const, okay. This is the fib, right? We cannot come here and say const res is equal to what? Fib this. Why? Because we are expecting fib to be a runtime value returned from the function, not at compile time.
Sorry, is fib a function?
Yes, yeah.
A built-in function?
No, we have implemented the function here.
Okay.
Can you see the function declaration here?
Yeah.
So we have implemented the fib.
Okay.
You understand? The return of this particular fib is what we are assigning here to the rescue variable, result variable.
Okay.
But what we are trying to say here is that you cannot declare a const variable and then expect the value to be the result of runtime computation. This fib will not be run now until you are at runtime. You understand now, right? So it is only the result of this fib that is going to be assigned to results. Let me even just put it so that to be clear. So this is what we get back from our computation that happens in fib function. Are you following? So this will only run at runtime, not at compile time. You know, Cairo also compile before you can run it. Are you following? So every code you see here will first compile before it is now runnable.
Okay. Also, sorry, like when we like play a run or when we call the command to run, it just gives us our this thing. I think those two are too fast.
Yeah, it's supposed to be too fast.
Like, it's very, very fast.
It is supposed to be fast.
Okay, so like,
you can build and then run. You understand? You see, when you do scarp build, it is only doing the compilation of your code base, right? When you do scarp Cairo run, it is first doing the compilation and then now running the result of the compilation. Are you following? If you just want to build without running, right? Okay, good. Although we have language server already telling us that there is a problem. But if we do scarp build, you will see that we get error that we cannot compile. Why can't we compile? There is what? Unexpected token, blah, 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 here. Okay, on like line 2, that line 2 has a problem. And basically the problem is that we are telling the compiler that the value of this result is going to be assigned at runtime. But compiler wants to know ahead what value the const is holding. Are you following?
So wait, should we now assign it first? Before now. Wait. I should be 15 first.
What is happening here is that we are battling const now. Don't let us lose the concept we are actually talking about here. Const. For const, unlike let, that allows you to actually use something as a result of the runtime. Look at this now. Let allow you to actually rebuild, we have no problem at all. Because let allow you to actually assign value at runtime instead of compile time. We compiled, right, successfully. And that is because we are using let. What is happening here is that when the compiler gets to this particular line, it realizes that, okay, we need to run this function before we can get this particular value back. Yeah. So the output of function fib is what is now assigned to a result. Yeah. But if we use const, it will never allow us to wait until runtime before we assign a value to the variable that is declared with const.
So you just run that only line itself, const.
It means that at compile time, it must know the value before it compiles. See what I'm talking about? Let's say, we now say const. Okay, let's leave this like this. But before then, we say const text equals to 14. But mind you, you also have to annotate that this is either U8, U54, U19, or whatever. our code will run. Why? Because at compile time, the compiler knows that the variable declared test already has a value assigned to it, which is what?
What if you declare the function before calling it? Because I see you're calling the function before declaring it.
Well, we can do that, declaring, but most time, you know, what do they call this programming concept? Not scope. Like program, the compiler runs from top to bottom. You understand? So it will be looking for the fib file. It must have gone through the fib function first before you get to the main function. Then you are telling it to go back up. You understand? But it works in some cases. It works in some cases. In fact, there are several cases where it has worked before. If you are thinking about this, right? Function declaration does not stop functions. If you are importing functions into a particular scope, it will always be at the top of the file where you are calling it. Right? Are you following? That is by the way. It is by the way. What I'm saying is that if you import a particular function, it has already been declared either in another file or another module, but you are bringing it into scope, it will be at the top level, not after where you are calling it. So if you want to call by a particular function, you are referring to something that is at the top. You understand? It doesn't matter, but we can test and see. But then let's go back to our scope, which is that a const variable must have a predefined value before compilation. Runtime is the problem now here, right? Runtime means that after compilation, that is when this is going to be run. A lot of programming concepts deals with compile time and runtime. The reason why a lot of people are choosing Rust, TypeScript, is because they catch some errors at compile time before runtime. Are you following? Yeah. So now the test is that at compile time, this const must have a variable assigned to it. We don't want it to be the result of another computation. Is that clear now? Then the data types, FET 252, there is a complex mathematics behind FET, and that is one reason why when you are coding Cairo or Starknet, if you are doing division, multiplication, addition, do not use FET type. Use an unsigned integer or signed integer, because there can be problem of overflow or underflow. So, and you remember, every variable default to FET. We talked about integer, I8 to I256, then U8 to U256, and then Boolean. He was talking about Boolean the other time, right? Before I cut him short. The thing about Boolean is just that, let's say, the declaration is let is completed bool equals to true. It is similar to declaring a Boolean variable in most programming languages. Are you following? So it can also be inferred. If you do not annotate the type, it can be inferred that, okay, since it is either saying true or false, it will know that this particular type is what? A Boolean. But most time, and then just for you to be clear, you can annotate the Boolean variable. But the compiler knows once it sees true or false assigned to that particular variable that this is a Boolean. Annotation means where you actually tell the compiler that this particular variable is of this type. You don't want it to infer from the assignment. You want to specifically tell it that it is of this particular type. Now, let's assume we are saying it is U8. The compiler will tell us, no, you don't know what you are doing, but me, I know what I'm doing. This cannot be at compile time, let me see. This is supposed to give us an error because true is not an unsigned integer. Right? Where is that? No, scarp build. If you want to run, it's where you now do scarp Cairo run. So the build is for you to compile. Just compile, don't run. So scarp Cairo run, we do the building, the compilation, and then the running.
And secondly, please, I see like in Cairo you can call a function inside another function.
Yes.
Unlike Solidity.
Yes, you can call a function inside another function.
I can also like assign a function to a variable the way you did there.
Yes, in Solidity you can too. Yeah, that is the return value of a particular function is what you are assigning. Are you following? The return value of a particular function is what you are assigning. So that is actually Boolean for you. True or what?
False.
False. That is scalar types, fets, integers, and then the Boolean. Then, okay.
Boolean, must you set the value to true or false?
No, you do not need to. You can just declare and then set later. Are you following? Just like you say, let S is blah, blah, blah. Where are we? You can say let true, U8, and then here you say true is completed, completed equals to true. Do you know why we are getting error here?
Because we are using units.
That type.
Because the type is U8 and the assignment is what? A Boolean. Where?
Line 8. Behind the goal.
Let me see. Scarp build. Okay. To answer your question, right, you need to actually assign a value to it. Once you declare it, you assign a value. Then we have compound types. We have tuple, arrays, structs, and some other special types. Tuple is just like a list. But the list is also like an array. But the way you actually get tuple is different from the way you access an array. For example, this is tuple, right? It groups multiple values of different types. Unlike an array that groups multiple value of what? Of same types. So in tuple you can have, okay, let's say degree, or let me say weather condition. You can have the, what I don't know weather terms. So okay, let me use something I'm familiar with. Let's say you can have programming languages, then you can have Rust or JavaScript in the tuple, right? Okay, that fits into an array too. Let's say you have an element, you have a variable. Okay, you have your car and then your house in the same list. For tuple. So in the tuple now, we can return different types. So example, let coordinate equals to 2, right? If we bring this down to our code and say let's coordinate a tuple of what? Uint 32 and bool equals to 10 true. You see that this works, right?
Yeah.
Simply because the tuple can take different types. Is that clear?
So please, so you want to define like a couple of like you have to like define the kind of values that we be carrying, like booleans, like you define the kind of values that we be carrying.
To answer your question, from the fact that our compiler can infer that, okay, this is what we are doing, you see that it doesn't give us any error, right? Meaning that you don't need to annotate. It can infer that this particular value assigned is a tuple of different data types. And from what is there, it will randomly assign whether uint 32, uint 8 to the 10, but for the true, it knows that this is what? A boolean.
And again, the brackets.
And since it has seen the bracket, it knows that it was a tuple.
What if you want your number to be another unit type?
Your number to be another unit type, as
Like
in...
a specific type now. Is it by default it's going to assign unit 8?
You can do that. There is something called another assignment type like this. You can assign values like data, like the type of a value this way too, especially for integers. It will automatically know that, okay, now this is a uint 8 and the value is 10.
Then if you do a minus 10, it automatically.
Know that this is an integer. Exactly. So then we have array. Size must be known at compile time. What does this mean? We have talked about compile time earlier on, right? When they say size of an array must be known at compile time, what are they talking about?
It must be defined.
The items in your array must be known. How many items do you want to have in that particular array at compile time? If you are adding 44 items to that particular array, it must be known so that it will reserve memory or space for that particular array. For example, this is how to declare an array. Okay. Let me just do recap. We'll do much of the array and then the blah, blah, blah. But this is a typical array. What is here? Abraham,
Yes, sir.
I want to remember something. This particular keyword, you said? Macro. So to actually use your array, there are two ways majorly. Either you use a macro or you declare an empty array and then push into it. Are you following? There is an array trait where you just do array colon new. It gives you an empty array, right? Yes. And then you can push values into that particular array or use the macro to insert value into that particular array. This is an example of a macro.
So that's the
Exclamation mark, yeah. And then this particular type is telling us that what? The array is what?
It's taking in numbers of unit 8.
Exactly. So if you try to add a number that is beyond unit 8, it will give you an error. Because it's expecting a number that is either unit like less than or equals to the maximum value of unit 8.
Okay, so that's less than 3,000.
Exactly. Less than or equals to the maximum value of unit 8. Now, struct. Struct is just like an object in JavaScript or TypeScript or an interface. So it's like a group that you are grouping. I used to call it metadata sometimes. Like you have something, but you want to group certain things into it. For example, there is a person and they have different characteristics. What's the color of their eyes? What is their name? How old is this particular person? What color of car are they driving? You can put all of these things in struct. it is also a custom data type. Because on the long run, you'll be referring to the data, the name, not the struct anymore.
Yeah.
So it's a custom data type with different primitive or compound data types at its properties. Are you following? For example, now we have struct, we declared a struct person, the name of the person is what? FET252. Currently, when you are doing this in Rust, in Cairo, it has to be byte array. Are you following? We'll get
In Rust.
a byte, in Cairo.
Okay.
It has to be byte array. Are you following? Because they want us to work with FET at the minimal as possible. You understand? What will you need FET for in Cairo? If you want to use it for number, use the unsigned integers. If you want to use it for string, use the byte array. Are you following? They don't want you to make it that, because FET can actually result into different and multiple errors.
What's the first use?
It is the default type. If you do not assign if you don't annotate a particular variable, it is going to default to FET, which is a feed element. Are you following? But if the compiler can infer that this particular value assigned to this particular type falls under either of these primitive data types or compound data type, it is going to automatically assign them to that data type instead of FET.
Yeah.
You understand? But as a Cairo developer, we don't want you using FET. Instead of FET for string, use byte array. Instead of FET for numbers, integers, use unsigned or signed integers. So if you are writing this now, this FET252 will be a type of byte array. Because it will grow in size. It can be anything. So to be a type of a byte array. Then now this is the assignment. Let person, which is what? A type of the person struct, be equals to this, and then we are initializing the name to what? Alice, and then the age to 30. Are you following? Is there any question here?
So this fails now. You use it for strings.
Exactly.
Can you go over why you use it for strings?
This FET here is used for string, and I just said it earlier on. Now, if you are writing your Cairo today, don't use FET252. Use byte array. Let's do this. Let's say here we have a type known as struct. So okay, this is what I would have done today. Okay. Let John equals to person name John and then the age, let's say 1 million. So you see what I've done now, right?
Yeah.
So I changed the FET252 to a type of byte array.
Yeah.
So the compiler knows that, okay, this is actually a byte array, because FET is very ambiguous. Are you following? It can be unsigned integer, it can be signed integer, it can be Boolean, it can be any of these types.
So,
because no type is what? FET type.
okay. So that's why at runtime it could just throw any of these.
Exactly. So the behavior cannot be predicted.
Okay. Okay. So it's something like set in JavaScript
Exactly.
where to just give you
Random this thing.
yeah.
And that is why if you forget or mistakenly assigned a value as for especially an unsigned integer to a fet, and then you are trying to do multiplication or division on that particular variable, you start seeing that you are getting unnecessary or unexpected results. And it's because the fet is behaving the way it likes. But the compiler will know at runtime that this is actually a uint, and it will give you an accurate result. This one's option type. Option type is basically like a wrapper. And type T, this is actually complex. Maybe, yeah, we'll get there. But let me just give an introduction to it. It's an option type. This option means that you are expecting something to be there or nothing to be there. You right? So this type T means that whenever you see T, we call it generic type. It means that you can replace this with any of our primitive types. It can be option U8, option Boolean, option whatever. Are you following? Meaning that now in your code, if you are expecting something to either be null or value, you use option.
Okay.
Right? So when you actually want to get the value, if the value contains the exact type, you will do that with what? Sum, then that particular value. Or it will return none. Are you following?
Go right again.
You said?
Go right again.
Okay. So the value of an option T type is either sum or none.
Okay.
So whatever the wrapper, whatever you are wrapping the option with, if that value exists, it will return sum, then that value.
Okay.
If that value doesn't exist, it will return none.
Okay.
It is majorly used for error handling.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not sure. We are not sure.
You are not sure?
When you're not sure.
Or when you are not sure.
Probably
Exactly.
the user
So,
because
as not to break your code in production, then if it is none, you will be able to handle the computation from there. We'll get there. There is something called match, when you are expecting something to either be sum or none. The same is for results. But for results, you are expecting something to either be the results or an error. Are you following? So for example, when we call fib, if fib returns, let's say,
it's supposed to return.
a result U32 or error, you understand? Most time you declare the error too, but here if it is supposed to return U32 and it doesn't return the value of U32, you are going to get an error back, and then you'll be able to also undo the error. So that is that for the contract address. Contract address on Starknet is a type too, but contract address, I was in Encore yesterday, so they were saying a lot of things happen to get your contract address, but that's complex.
So
You do.
So the option and results, are they like the default or are they like the like is it for error handling in other languages? Is this what they use?
In Cairo, yes. This is what you use most time, exactly, to undo errors. So option, if you are expecting something to be there or not, you understand, use option. If you are expecting a computation to complete, to compute successfully or returns an error, you do what? Use the result type. So there is type alias. Type alias means that when you say type price meaning that you are not saying type price is a type of U18. Let's say this. Okay. Here is type alias. Now, when we come here and say, let price, a type of price equals to, I don't know if this is here in Cairo, to Max. I'm not sure if it is there. But now, what we can infer from here is that now price is a type of U128. So if you try to assign a value higher than 128 to it, you will run into an error. Are you following? So it simply means that you want to give this particular, it's like an abstraction. For example, there is a complex, you have a tuple of U256 and Boolean. You understand? So your price now, the type price now, is now a type of a tuple of U256 and a Boolean. So if you try to assign something that is not a tuple of U256 and Boolean to it, you run into an error. Are you following?
So we specifically defined the type of price.
We created a type alias known as price. And then we give it the value that the type that this price is now going to be now. Is that understood? Any question from the back? I should carry on? Good. There is something called type inference. Okay, we have done type inference several times here. Type conversion. Type conversion is just, let's say you are trying to convert type, you understand, from one type to the other.
Okay.
We'll get there, and I will show you in our Starklings. But the idea is that you want to convert from one type to another type, maybe for the base of your computation. You understand? Now, there's something we call try into, and then into. Try into means that it returns a result. A result, you know what a result now is now, right? Whether the value is there or an error. So try into is trying to check if what you are converting is not higher in bit size than what you are converting into. So if you are trying to convert a unit 256 to unit 8, you are going to get an error. Because the value of unit 256, the maximum value of unit 256 cannot fit into the value of unit 8. In that situation, you will use try into to do what? To do your type conversion. Are you following? Meaning that this can result in an error, and it might not result in an error. If you are doing that for unit 256 to unit 8, and the value of that unit 256 is actually 8, you know it still falls in between the maximum value of unit 8. So it will compute successfully. In that case, for you to be able to access that, you will need to go into the sum t and access the value inside the sum keyword. We'll get there. Now let's do practical example that will be very interactive.
You can convert from units to Boolean.
You can convert from units
To Boolean.
now.
Okay, so,
I don't know if you can it's not possible. Units to Boolean. One thing I can say that is possible is that, right, low level, true is actually 1.
Yes.
And false is 0. Right? So I've not tried. If you can convert from 0, like you use 1, you know it's a unit 8, right? And I try to convert into Boolean. If the compiler would decide that, okay, yeah, since it is 1, it is going to be what? True.
okay, so because when you mentioned the type conversion, so I just thought that okay, you can just basically convert different types to another.
Yes. But then, if it is not convertible, what will happen?
So
An error.
okay.
And if you are not sure if it is going to work, that is when you do try into.
Okay.
If you are very sure it is going to work, you use into. For example, if you are converting from unit 8 to unit 256, you already know that no matter how big that value of unit 8 is going to fit into 256.
Yeah.
Then you are very sure you use into.
Okay. I'm not sure you use try. You're sure.
If you are not sure, everything. And is that? Ah, no. It's just that's just few of them.
It's too small, man.
Very small. So Starkling is like a game that you play, but here you are playing with code. So once you have successfully navigated that particular stage, you move to the next stage. And like a game, it is from the easiest stage to the toughest one. So now, you see, now it is very simple self. Here in Starkling, you read at the left pane, you see the like a brief introduction to. This is actually covering, okay, like a brief introduction to that particular task. So here they are telling the other side doesn't do anything, but it still compiles. Cairo file getting run needs to have a main function. Are you following?
Yes.
He mentioned, Dave already mentioned it, right? Like the main function is the entry point into a Cairo file or Cairo project.
Instead of contract.
Instead of
Contract as in solidity.
instead of contracts. Oh yeah, yes. For contract is just like a class, right? When you declare contract, blah blah blah, it's just like a class, right? It has to be there too. But for Cairo, the entry point is actually the main function, unless you are writing Starknet smart contracts. Do you know that? Okay, now let me make a distinction. Do you know that Python is a general language, right?
Yes.
And Django is a framework built on top of Python. JavaScript is a general language. React is a framework built on top of it, right? In React, there's something they call frameworks are most time opinionated, meaning that you have to follow certain steps if you want to get results, right? So Cairo is like a general language. Starknet contracts is like a framework built on top of Cairo. So Starknet contract framework doesn't need main function as the entry point. Are you following? Now, the only thing that Cairo needs is that in your file, there must be main somewhere in your library.r.cairo. So when the compiler is compiling your file, the first place it's going to look is your library.cairo. Are you following? Yes. So if in your library.cairo, you have the main function, sometimes the main function might not even be in the library.cairo. As long as modules are declared. In fact, the main function is important. It must be there. If you have little knowledge of Rust, Cairo will be as easy peasy. Of course, they won't say anything now. Cairo is easy peasy because it is almost the same thing. Cairo is actually borrowing a lot, if not everything, from Rust. So now, they said this function will compile, but what if we remove the main function or type it to a block header? It should run now. Why? The word main must be there. That is the entry point to Cairo program, main. Great. Now to stage 2. No internet.
Stage 2.
Yes. of the game.
Oh, you don't know we are playing.
Yeah, playing game.
You think all the things we are saying here is this?
Like you finish the whole game like right now.
It's easy peasy, man.
I'm not complaining now.
Yeah, you might want to
complaining.
don't worry,
Just
you might get more.
Just taking us through the
Just compare,
things,
If it compiles, it works. If it doesn't compile, you suffer.
You sweaty.
Now, what should we do to make this compile?
Me.
Hold on.
Putting it in.
Good. Very easy.
I say easy peasy. Follow me. Follow me.
Very easy. Next. Okay, yeah.
This for you. Conversation for you.
Who created this game?
I'm taking this.
I'm not supposed to do next because I've actually solved everything. So now, let's make this compile. What is the problem?
Ship now.
Let X.
If you are coming from us, you are not supposed to talk.
Yeah. But that was what I was going to say.
Let X, right? Easy
So
peasy.
why is the column like after the X?
Which X?
So we still have
The type.
column.
No.
The type specified.
Okay, specific type annotation, right? Normal. Wait, are there people online with us?
Yes.
Do they have any question? They do not have any question. Those guys must be gurus. So. Next. What is going on here?
You have to assign it.
Wait now.
No worry. Just don't need to. You are finishing.
What's going on here?
Don't worry, when is it?
Let
They
us-
have to add mutes to
Correct,
the
it's
X.
it's not there, and you print this.
You have to use the keyword
supposed
mutes.
No. It's not. You have to assign it.
Yeah.
I have to assign
The X.
to a value, right?
Yeah.
And put
I
mute.
wanted to see.
You don't have to. You are not putting.
Okay, this is what I'll be doing. If you answer the question of this particular game, you are not entitled to the next until we go round. So what should we assign to X?
Put 10 so that
So that we print what?
it will print the number 4, line 4.
S is what?
X is 10. Then
10.
inside the line 4, you should put the curly braces.
Yes, I said that.
Then comma, then X.
The same thing with the other one.
Right?
Then the line 6, you do the same thing.
Do you know what we are doing here is unnecessary?
Unnecessary.
Yeah. Because our major task is to make this code compile. We are not printing anything out to the standard output. Are you following? So we just want to compile. If it compiles, we are done with that particular level. What is going on?
Is that stuff?
The column braces, yeah.
Martin, so.
It's
What is
not-
No, we inserted the curly brace. It was not supposed to be there. If it is there, then we have to put a value.
I'm not put down there.
Okay. Next. Who is answering this one?
Let me do my laptop.
Let's this. What's going on here?
Is it an assignment?
Are we just, there's no question for this.
Make it compile.
Why?
Make me compile, that's all.
Okay, you just assign it back.
Now, there's something I need to tell you, right? So, when you are stuck, because you will be stuck.
Definitely.
When you are stuck, you go to get int. You click get int.
Okay.
You said? Wow.
I think we should change that face. Then, it's a new-
So look at the int, right? Oops.
You have to share your screen.
I don't know which one.
All right. In this exercise, we have a variable binding that we are created on line 2. Okay, this cannot. Can you see the screen? Okay. Wait. Let me do this and see if it works. Yeah. So, oops, in this exercise, blah, 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 this is where you get an int into what is going on. So, if,
Add something. Add the value like a number.
okay.
I saw in your myself like I'm not kidding. And give the hint now. You say you haven't given the value. I'm just too busy.
Compile.
You can't get stuck. Do you know why? I'm one or two people stuck there. I'm stuck myself.
Make me compile.
It's very happiness tonight.
Oh, gosh. Do you agree? If you have any contradicting opinion, please talk.
What do you say?
What do you say?
Add keyword use to line 2. So you can mutate it in line 4.
Or you can add let's.
Yeah, as long
Or you
as
can use let.
But then you see that that comment, right?
Yes, okay, that comment.
Don't change it. So you just need to add use let.
That's true.
So you cannot touch that line. You said? It's for beginner. You must do your own. You have to do it and submit itself before the next class. We'll check. You must complete your Starklings. Everything. It's more than what you are saying on the screen here. Make me compile. Don't change this line. Don't rename this variable.
This is shadowing. That lets to line 4.
Somebody else should talk. What is going on here? Huh? We should just add that and see what happens, right? Let us wing it. So what did we just do? Not you.
Let me explain now.
What did we do on line 4?
This leg there because yes. You assign it to a variable.
Yes, that's the last one, right?
So it can be codable.
No, simple. We are shadowing line 1 on line 2 on line 4.
So I'm just going to begin. What's shadowing?
Shadowing means you are declaring something you've declared earlier on to be able to assign it a new value.
But if you use course, it's not going to work.
Nah, it is never going to work.
You can shadow const.
You cannot shadow const.
So the claim variable is just let and const, yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
I think if you use let's you define let's number and then you're not defining let number again. It might throw an error.
If you define,
Let's number
okay.
2 times to show an error. Like if you do it 2 times, what?
Again, right? You can shadow as many times as possible.
No, in JavaScript.
Okay, in JavaScript, if you do let number.
Just use number. Just change it.
Yes.
Mutate in JavaScript or you
You can't have the same variable name.
Yes, definitely.
No, you can change it variable now. It's not constant. Yeah, you can use let and change variable in JavaScript.
Wait, what he's saying is that you cannot do this let number twice in the same scope. In the same scope.
In Cairo.
In JavaScript.
Or can you do it here?
You cannot do it.
Oh, yeah.
Are you here?
I'm here.
Let's go on. Wow, we should be clapping for ourselves. So whenever we solve one particular level, we need that clap because when we get to where it is complicated.
I swear, I'll carry you, like, don't worry. I got you.
Variable 6, okay.
Next. See, big man, he's downloading ideas from heaven. Just think about downloading it.
Just quiet. Too much noise.
See knowledge.
See how they talk too much.
See knowledge.
I do not have internet again. Please, who have a Mac charger?
Mark.
That's too much.
Yes.
So what's going on here? Why is this not going to compile? No, not you.
She's banned.
She's banned. Okay. Okay.
So that number will specify my one back. Yes.
Okay.
Can you push connect to Avid?
It will be
3.5 kilobytes. I think it is
after
Is it working for you?
no.
It's not working.
Yeah, they're doing it, I think.
Kaidan then very, very fast. Like 1 Gbps. Imagine. This one is 2 Gbps now, but it's 8 Gbps. Imagine that it's 1 Gbps. Free Wi-Fi.
Yeah, midnight you can get 1 gigabyte per second.
What's that? Get what?
1 gigabyte per second. It's kind of network, you can't pay.
You got first.
It's true. I swear. I'm using my
It's not like you.
Type what?
And that you see.
I want you to say it gagan, the way they used to say it. Type what? They call the stuff type something. Like when you start talking like an expert, say, you didn't do this thing on that line 8. Type annotation.
Okay, type annotation.
I was only sharing that screen. So you do type annotation, and you annotate with U what? U8. So, did you see what they did on line 2?
Yeah.
What is happening there? The type annotation is not actually annotated. It's what? Inferred type annotation with underscore. Underscore U8. Will it compile? It shouldn't. Why shouldn't it? Cool.
And because that one to really specify the type too.
Which one?
The second line.
Yeah, the line 2. Line 2.
I will use search. Yeah.
Don't change.
That means
Don't add.
It's the value they said, now not the.
Don't change the value.
Hmm?
The hints.
No. Just add. Just annotate the line 2. Same data type. Wait.
Just annotate the line 2.
Yeah, line 2.
Felt there.
Can you?
No, not
yeah,
fair.
refuse.
Wait.
Okay.
It's you.
Wait.
U8.
Let's compare.
Moment of truth.
Why will you compile?
Yeah.
What of that one? So that one is useless.
Which one?
That inferred annotation is useless.
That's actually telling you something. You can only do that for
But array.
let keyword. If you are declaring a variable with let, you can do that for let. But for const, it has to be explicitly annotated.
This comes
So that is that for that type. Then primitive type. Fill in the rest of the line that has code missing. No int, no trick. Just get used to typing this. No. Who else want to try this? Anyone?
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Number 9.
Sorry, I'm answering too much.
Ah.
Let someone else answer.
Number 9.
Yes.
What should we do there?
Is
Evening
equals
equals
to.
Okay.
Martin's answer.
Is underscore evening equals to true. Great. Will it work?
Even if you say
Oh yeah, place your bets.
even if you say false, it will still work.
It will work now.
No, if it's false, it won't work.
So what are we learning from this particular
Bullying.
bullying?
Yeah, you change.
Can you just do next now?
I've completed it. If I do next, it will tell me to take me to the end of the. But if you are doing it on your own, be clicking next because you have not completed it yet. Yeah, it's where it gets interesting. So fill in the rest of the line that has code missing. No int, no blah blah blah.
What's that ref for?
Okay. Should I answer that now?
Like the ref will not the answer to the question.
Ref means that you are actually making a reference to that particular my initial C.
Okay.
Look at it. Why are we passing ref? We are calling this function. It's alphabetic, right? It's alphabetic is here. It is expecting a ref of your character. So whatever the character you are passing, this is what it is expecting. Then you are passing that character C. Right? That's the value assigned to my first initial. So now, if this is there, do this. Otherwise, do this.
Okay. Who else? Actually, I got it.
Wait. It's alphabetical. Like if it's alphabetical.
No.
Let's take some of this thing down.
Okay.
It's number. I'm sorry, wrong one.
We should do it. That should do it. Great. So what are we doing here now? What is going on? What are we doing? How are we solving this?
So please can you go down? Like I want to see if it's alphabetical.
Where I was supposed to send this line 19.
It's existing.
Where
You were supposed to fill in the line 19. Bring it line.
That put your character is equal to anything.
Smart. There is nothing to solve here. Just repeat what has been done up. Your character equals to.
What of ways is alphabetically defined?
Yeah. Here's the function. It is comparing the character you pass to it.
Oh.
Can you see it now?
So that means I have to pass in the character for everything to work.
This is the character we are passing now. Your character. Whatever you assign to your character is what is going to be compared in this alphabetic function.
But once I look at it, go, you see, if it's alphabetical exists.
Meaning that the function is alphabetical is returning a Boolean value. Are you following?
Okay, so if it doesn't exist, it should refer.
If it is not, if it is false, no. What we are doing here is that we are passing this character. Let's declare it. Character D. D, right? If this D is not equal to A or less than this, return true. Again. I should be rounding up. Okay. So, are you following? It is doing the comparison inside its alphabetical. Then it is either true or false. Going back here, if it is false, it is going to run S if it's numeric. Then if it is still false, it is going to print this line. You're following, right?
Yes,
So this compiles. Something went wrong with your code.
Actually, solve it by putting Z.
By putting?
Z
No, not.
Has your character been defined before?
Write it, your character. Yes, this is your character. It's what? That's the error. Where did you get the error from?
Ref character.
Sharp. So that is what the error. So when you run into this particular error, this particular output is going to be useful a lot. So you run up, you look at the output and see what is going on. And most time, you will not get the answer. You will not get the hint from that particular error. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Teacher waiting. Compile. All right, let's solve one more and then call it a day. We should finish the primitive types. Okay, the structure the cat tuple to call print on each member. The structure the cat tuple.
Let's cut and now putting what do you call it for strings. It's what you call it, the something annotation.
Just
No, that's for
read everything you are seeing again, you know what you're supposed to.
Exactly.
It just
Example
delete.
now, look at like 4 and 5.
Okay.
What's going on? So what are we going to do? No, not you yet. Somebody else should actually attempt this. Not you too. Attempt this. We did this when I started earlier on. What's going on here? At the back, will you attempt it, please? You should though, because you must submit this thing by Monday.
Hey,
So let's name age equal to cat.
Name age equals to cat. So how do we do that? Let name.
Then
age directly, or no comma, age equals to cat, right? The structuring now means that you are going to follow the same process with the tuple itself, the same way it was constructed. Huh? So that is the structuring. You come back and put the bracket and the parentheses. Hmm? Let me show you a glimpse of what. Now let's answer the last question and then we'll call it a day. So while you are trying to solve your Starklings, if you run into any error, the Discord server will be there for you. Or be creative. Look for the solutions yourself. But try it a lot before you look for solutions. Are you following? Yeah. So next one. Yeah. So who attempt this? We should go to int. Here are multiple integers type in Cairo. You can read about them here. Hmm? You said? Okay, try it. In convert to fet, we'll do x dot into, right? Then what about convert fet to U8?
Let's try into.
X dot try into. Why unwrap? You said? Because under the hood, try into returns what? It returns an option. Hmm? Or is it an option or result? It returns a result. Yeah, result type. Either it is there or it is an error. Unwrap. Now, will it compile? Why? You've done Starkling before. You've done Starkling before. Why won't it compile? If you know there is a test, that means you have done Starkling before. So now, why won't it compile? You look at the test. Although if you continue, you will see where they tell you to modify this test to use the correct integer types. Right? Don't modify the values, just the types. See how using the blah 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 works, right? So what's going on here?
Wait. It's not unit, because I using unit 8. I also like do something like unit 6 test.
Okay. Because we are using unit 8, but something is happening here. We are adding 2 to 55 and expect it to give us unit what?
8.
What is the maximum value of unit 8?
255.
255.
That means now we are adding 2 maximum value of unit 8 in unit 8. What will happen? Overflow. So now we have to increase. We can manipulate it. Okay.
So no, so you have to increase one.
No, just tell me what you wanted to say there.
No, that's what I wanted to.
Okay. It's either you reduce the value you are passing to fit into unit 8, or you change the type.
In this case, we change the type because if you don't
Don't change
The value.
the value.
Don't change the value.
So what are we modifying?
Unit 8 to unit 16.
Unit 8 to 16.
I knew it. I've always known it.
8 to 16. What else again?
And that guy too.
Which one? This guy?
Yeah.
8 to 16. Then is that all?
Yeah, that's
Yeah, because there's another function. There's another function up.
Up or down?
Up.
So where is the function?
That big. That some big numbers.
Okay, yeah.
What's happening there?
We did that
So
time.
according to the test, it's adding two numbers, but yeah, but it's still returning unit 8. So there's a problem.
So
So you're going to change
Oh, is
that.
that some big numbers or is it
Yes. So you're going to change that returning value to what you have in the test.
what's the value?
Unit 16.
Unit 16.
Then you're going to convert this x and y to whatever is going to return.
Okay, so how do we do that?
When, for me, how I solved it, I used.
You've solved it.
Yes, now.
So let's use another person's perspective.
Why do you say it up? I know this is not so bad.
They called it until unit 16.
What's that?
The variable.
Change unit 8 to unit 16.
My camera. What's that?
I'm done. Finish it. I'm done.
You can't hear me? You cannot hear me?
Jesus, get close. Good pass.
If you have ever seen errors in production, telemetry, you will be wondering like, why do we need to do all this validation before we actually do the computation? Because users can do anything.
Yeah.
SQL injection, people will pass SQL injection.
Yeah, I don't break the code.
So they will pass something else to your code and we have waiting with this now. So you have to do a lot of validation. That's why Cairo and Rust is good. So that brings us to the end of the class. You have a lot to go and solve and then submit by Monday.
There you go.
It's the first